The Trae Young Dejounte Murray experiment has failed miserably, and after only 2 very short years, it is officially over, with the Atlanta Hawks trading Dejounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans for pennies at this point. They are going to be receiving a 2025 first round pick via LA, 2027 first round pick, EJ Little, Dyson Daniels, and Larry Nance Jr. That is all the Atlanta Hawks will be getting in return for one of their superstars. Now, were some people expecting maybe a Brandon Ingram to be involved in the trade? Absolutely. And yet, it feels like the offers just weren't there for Dejounte Murray. You see, everybody around the NBA understood that one of these Atlanta Hawks stars had to go. Whether it was Trae Young or Dejounte Murray was the question. And there were a few rumors around the NBA that Dejounte Murray was yielding the larger return, which is why he got moved. And I can only imagine, if these were the offers that the Hawks were getting for Dejounte Murray, they must have been getting absolutely lowballed for their superstar Trae Young to not be moved. Now, is this the end for the Atlanta Hawks in free agency? I doubt it. I feel like they still have a few more pieces that they either need to acquire or move. What direction are they heading in? Well, I'll talk about that in this video, along with how the New Orleans Pelicans look to be shaping up for the 2025 season. Let me tell you, they look like true contenders with the addition of Dejounte Murray. But before we get on with that, I just wanted to remind you guys to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 3,000. Every subscription is greatly appreciated, and I feel like we can get there if you subscribe. All right, now let's get back to talking about the big trade here. You see, adding a guy like Dejounte Murray is going to bolster that Pelicans team who's already stuck in a stacked Western Conference. Hell, the team looked fantastic last season. They ended up winning 49 games, and yet they only finished as the 7th seed after doing pretty well in the play-in tournament. So, with the Atlanta Hawks now gifting them Dejounte Murray, it looks like the Pelicans can finish in the top 5 in a very stacked Western Conference. I mean, Dejounte Murray, while he may not have looked the best with Atlanta, his stats were pretty similar to his time in San Antonio. Last season, Dejounte Murray went out and averaged 22 points a game on, I want to say, pretty efficient shooting, 45% from the field. From the three-point line, it sat at about 36%. He had about 5 rebounds a game on 6.4 assists and 1.4 steals. The one thing about Dejounte Murray's game is that he cares about defense. He tries on the defensive end, and while defense may not have been the focal point in Atlanta, it's not something that wavered too much for Dejounte Murray. Sure, did he play better on the defensive end in a place like San Antonio, where the system is much different? Yes. However, I think that defensive ability will return now that he is on the Pelicans. I mean, in his first season with Atlanta, he had averaged some pretty good numbers as well, don't get me wrong. He went from averaging about 21 points and, making the All-Star team with the San Antonio Spurs in his last season to averaging 20 points with the Atlanta Hawks. His shooting percentage went up by like 0.02. And then from the three-point line, he also did shoot a bit better when he joined the Hawks. So his efficiency has been going up year by year over these last couple of seasons. However, the same cannot be said about his assists and rebounds. You see, the year he was an All-Star, his last year with San Antonio, the man was averaging, I want to say, about 8 total rebounds and 9 assists and 2 steals a game. That is the only season in which Dejounte Murray has averaged 2 steals a game, and he was doing that on a pretty bad San Antonio team. You could say he was stat padding because no one else on that San Antonio roster was any good, but that's not really his fault, right? I mean, the Atlanta Hawks believed pairing him up with Trae Young would take them to the next level. And on paper, that duo made absolutely a ton of sense. I mean, Trae Young is a liability on defense, but he's really good at scoring, whereas Dejounte Murray can play both ends of the ball very well. So it seemed like that duo of guards was going to be pretty well. I mean, this Atlanta Hawks team had made the Eastern Conference Finals just 2 years ago before they had acquired Dejounte Murray. Now, Dejounte Murray didn't bring the Hawks the success they were looking for. all he had brought them was one first-round exit and then missing the playoffs entirely last season. However, that's not his fault. Trae Young was injured for most of last year, and had Trae Young been healthy, maybe they could have snuck in and wouldn't have to worry about that play-in tournament where they failed in, just a couple months ago. But that's besides the point. He's now heading to the New Orleans Pelicans. And let me tell you, this New Orleans Pelicans squad is looking very strong, especially for this 2025 season. I mean, they've already got a few superstars on the roster. I'm talking a Brandon Ingram and a Zion Williamson. Now, who knows what Brandon Ingram is going to do this offseason and whether the Pelicans are going to move on from him, or if this trade means that they're going to be keeping, Brandon Ingram. But anyway, I would say last year, Brandon Ingram was their best player. He went out, averaged 20 points a game, 49% from the field, 35% from the three-point line, 5 rebounds, 5.7 assists. And then their second leading scorer was CJ McCollum, 20 points a game. He played 66 games, had 45% shooting. He's only 32 years old. So while CJ has been in the league for quite a while, he isn't as old as you might believe. And then, of course, Zion Williamson, 22.9 points per game in the 70 games he played in. One of Zion's worst qualities has been his ability to stay healthy. However, he did play 70 games last season, had a really good bounce back year, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. You gotta remember, Zion has been in the league for a while, and yet he is only 23 years old. The same age as rookie Dalton Connect for the Lakers, may I add. Okay, so while Zion has been in the league for 5 years and has struggled to stay healthy, he's still super young and can develop in that superstar role that the Pelicans believed he would be when they drafted him with the first overall pick as a replacement to Anthony Davis, right? I mean, Zion also went out and averaged, I want to say, 5.8 rebounds and 5 assists. So he was pretty damn good for this Pelicans team while shooting, I want to say, 57% from the field. I mean, he doesn't take too many threes, so of course that percentage should be much higher than his teammates, but still, one of the best that you'll see around the entire association. Now, like I said, what does this do for the Pelicans team? Well, I think that adding Dejounte Murray gives them a good piece alongside CJ McCollum. Plus, CJ McCollum is going to be aging out of that role eventually and will need a replacement. So that is what Dejounte Murray brings to the table. Plus, of course, his defensive bonus. I mean, this guy can play defense like no other, and I think that their head coach, Willie Green, will greatly appreciate it. I mean, Willie Green has been on the Pelicans for 3 years, going on 4 years now. He's made it to the playoffs twice, something that the Pelicans weren't able to do on a consistent basis before him. And I feel like with a stable coach now, Dejounte Murray won't struggle as much, because in only 2 seasons with the Hawks, he played under 3 coaches, with one of them being an interim coach, but still, he played for 3 coaches in Atlanta in 2 years. So hopefully, now that he has stability and he has great teammates around him, things will start to look different for Dejounte Murray. I believe that the Pelicans will be near, if not at the top of the Western Conference come the NBA season, if no other crazy moves happen, all right? Anyway, that's about it for this video. I think I've covered everything I've wanted to, so I'll catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.